So as you've learned from this very first activity that we've done in EBLI, writing or the English alphabet is actually the code for words that we speak. Okay, so it's basically taking our talk and transcribing it into print on the page so someone can read it and pick it up. So it's very interesting how the code works. And I shared with you an article about Sequoyah from a Cherokee Indian and how he made a code for the Cherokee language. It was a simple code, but basically he realized from the white man and watching them, reading books, which he called talking leaves, that whatever those squiggles were on the page, they had something to do with what they were speaking. So he figured that out and created this language. So I want to read this article for you. And if you're somewhere where you can't actually watch and follow along with the words, don't do this yet, because I want you to follow along in reading those words too as we go through this. But it's very interesting to help you understand how this our speech is coded into print, and that's what reading is. And that's what you're going to learn with EBLI as we go. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to follow with my cursor. And so follow along with that as I'm reading, okay? Keeping your eyes on the words, because a lot of times, especially if you haven't read much and reading is not your thing, you're kind of at a disadvantage for the number of words that you have under your eyes. So the more that you see and read while you're actually looking, if you're doing an audiobook or whatever, follow along with the words too, okay, in the book, because that's going to be really, really important for your brain to pick up patterns of the spellings and to further apply all of the things that you're going to be learning in the lessons. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to have a little bit of story time. Okay, so the title of this is Sequoyah, the Man Who Saved the Cherokee Language. Sequoyah was fascinated by books and letters, enchanted by the way people could divine meaning from ink-stained scribbles on a written page. Born in the 1760s in what is now Tennessee and trained as a silversmith and blacksmith, the Cherokee man never learned how to read or write in English, but he always knew that literacy and power were intertwined. During most of Sequoyah's lifetime, the Cherokee language was entirely oral. According to the Manataka, I don't know if I said that right? American Indian Council, a written language may have existed centuries earlier, but the script was supposedly lost as the tribe journeyed east across the continent. Sometime around 1809, Sequoyah began working on a new system to put the Cherokee language back on the page. He believed that by inventing an alphabet, the Cherokee could share and save the stories that made their way of life unique. At first, some Cherokee disliked Sequoyah's idea. White people were encroaching further on their land and culture, and they were resistant to anything that resembled assimilation. Some skeptics saw Sequoyah's attempts to create a written language as just another example of the tribe becoming more like the oncoming white settlers. In other words, another example of the tribe losing a grip on its culture and autonomy. Sequoyah, however, saw it differently. Rather than destroy his culture, he saw the written word as a way to save it. According to Britannica, he became convinced that the secret of white people's growing power was directly tied to their use of written language, which he believed was far more effective than collective memories or word of mouth. In the words of Sequoyah, the white man is no magician. If they could do it, so could he. Sequoyah became further convinced of this in 1813 after he helped the U.S. Army fight the Creek War in Georgia. For months, he watched soldiers send letters to their families and saw war officers deliver important commands in written form. He found the capability to communicate across space and time profoundly important. Sequoyah's first attempt to develop a written language, however, was relatively crude by comparison. He tried to invent a logographic system, meaning pictures, designing a unique character for every word, but quickly realized he was creating too much unnecessary work for himself. According to historian April Summit's book, Sequoyah and the Invention of the Cherokee Alphabet, his wife may have attempted to burn an early version of his alphabet, calling it witchcraft. So Sequoyah started new, this time constructing his language from letters he found in the Latin, Greek, and Cyrillic alphabets, as well as some Arabic numerals. Sequoyah became more reclusive and obsessive, spending hour upon hour working on his alphabet. According to the official website of the Cherokee Nation, people outside his family began whispering that he was meddling with sorcery. By 1821, Sequoyah was too busy to pay the gossip any mind. He was teaching his 6-year-old daughter, Aoka, how to use the system. One story goes, Sequoyah was eventually charged with witchcraft and brought to trial before a town chief, who tested Sequoyah's claims by separating him and his daughter and asking them to communicate through their so-called writing system. By the trial's end, everybody was convinced that Sequoyah was telling the truth. The symbols truly were a distillation of Cherokee speech. Rather than punish Sequoyah, the officials asked him a question. Can you teach us how to read? Once accepted by the Cherokee, Sequoyah's 86-character alphabet, which was technically called a syllabary, was widely studied. Within just a few years, thousands of people would learn how to read and write, with many Cherokee communities becoming more literate than the surrounding white populations. It wasn't long before the Cherokee language began appearing in books and newspapers. The first published in 1828, the Cherokee Phoenix was the first Native American newspaper printed in the United States. Sam Houston, the eventual governor of Texas, admired Sequoyah's achievement and reportedly told him, "Your invention of the alphabet is worth more to your people than 2 bags full of gold in the hands of every Cherokee." Today, while the Cherokee language is now considered endangered by UNESCO, Sequoyah's system remains a landmark innovation and a source of hope for the future. And I share this reading, and I've shared the document too that you can print out if you want to show the power of reading and writing and how we can communicate with anybody, no matter where they are in the world, if we can write to them, and also they can communicate us if we can pick up off the page what they have written. It is their talk written down. When we read, that's what we're doing. We're picking up off the page what someone else is actually saying, and then it's coded in these letters, and then we decode it. It's kind of like this coding game, basically. And what I love about what Sequoyah said too, or said in that article, he always knew that literacy and power were intertwined. And Frederick Douglass, who was a freed slave, he had another quote that is, "Once you learn to read, you will be forever free." So literacy and having that acquisition of literacy to reach to your highest potential, which is our goal always with EBLI, gives you power and freedom. And so that is what we're doing with these lessons, because we want everyone to be able to read to their highest potential and as best as they can. So thank you for listening to that little story about Sequoyah. I find it very, very fascinating about how he did that, and he and his daughter really basically changed their whole Cherokee nation. So thanks for listening.